inside of a building. We do a lot of positive reinforcement with the dogs. We make sure the dogs have a high ball drive, which is a good hunt drive. That's part of the test that they have to go through. We'll take the ball, throw it out in the field, we'll spin the dog around so he can't remember where it's at, and we send him out to find it. And some dogs will search it half hour, some dogs will go until it kills them if they have to, just to please. They want to show pleasure. So our canines, well, most canines run off of pleasure and pain. So either they're gonna please you or they know they're gonna get punished for what they're doing bad. Like I say, with these dogs, we make sure they have a high ball drive, they love to play, they love to please their handlers. That's what they wanna do. They wanna make sure they're doing their job and working hard. These dogs will run themselves to death if we let them. But that's one thing we make sure we're watching constantly is we're watching their body temperatures, making sure they're not getting overheated. My canine, I actually had one where I chased the guy. We ran 3.5 miles chasing a guy, and he overheated. We had to ice him down for over, I think it was 2.5 hours to make sure his core temperature came down. If not, it would have killed him. This dog, he's a playful dog, but once he goes into patrol mode, I won't let anybody around him. He will bite anybody, but that's only when he gets one command. I've got one command, and I speak German to him. Some other handlers use Dutch. You can use any language, but they make sure that they train them on that one and only language when they're doing it. This dog, he does both patrol, so the biting, the tracking, trailing, apprehending suspects, and then he also does narcotics detection. They've got narcotics detection, bomb detection, cadaver dogs, and we train with every one of them. We're constantly going. This dog I train at least once a week for anywhere from 4 to 12 hours. If not, they'll lose it fast. They just want to play. That's all these dogs want to do is play, play, play. We'll talk like 2-year-old kids to them. You know, when they do good, it'll be like, oh, good boy, good boy, good boy. You know, it sounds ridiculous, but it does. It helps out a lot with them. I have hidden in this room, it's not gonna be hard for the dog to find, it's just a little cotton ball with the scent of heroin on it. It doesn't take much for the dogs to find. This dog has found, what was it, 2 weeks ago, over 71 pounds of methamphetamine that we got. He's seized over, what was it, $200,000 in cash from cartels last year. That's just the scent of the drugs being on the cash from people handling it. That's all it takes is just one little trace amount of the drugs. I think what else? Like I said, these dogs they're there to please, you know. Like I say, once he gets in the patrol mode, he will bite anybody. I don't know if you guys know Detective Bennett, works for the sheriff's office. We were tracking a guy out in Deseret. Was it last year?
A couple of years.
I think it was last year, the year before. But he got in front of the dog thinking he needed to lift up a barbed wire fence for the dog to get under. I gave the dog the command to go search for the bad guy. Dog came up and bit him. So I told him, I said, stay away from the pointy end. That's what you gotta do. Again, that same night, he came up in front of us. It was dark. Came up in front of us in a ditch. The dog didn't know it was him. Grabbed onto his leg. So that's why I always tell everybody, stay behind me. As long as you're behind me, you're safe. But yeah, I mean, these dogs they're amazing to handle. It's the best job I think the sheriff's office has personally, but
A lot of work.
It is. We put in a lot of work with them.
So will you tell us maybe how does the sheriff's department select the deputies that get to do it, and then what impact that has maybe on your personal life, the commitment to be a canine officer?
Right. So with me, I kind of lucked into it. I left the sheriff's office for 4 years. I came back. My whole goal was to be a canine handler, even before I left. Our biggest thing is, if you want to be a canine handler, you're going to come and work with us. You're going to come and take bites for the dogs. You're going to come and hide the dope for us. When I hide the dope, I never want to know where it's at, because then that way I can lead the dog into where it's at. That looks really bad in court, and I don't ever want to do that. So, but if they want to be part of the canine team, they have to show the interest. It's a lot of time and work away from home. Like I say, I'm constantly training this dog. I'm with him. I take him on runs at least once every other day. I'm outside playing with him every day, making sure his ball drives up. He loves to play fetch. He never wants to let go of the ball, but I have to fight with him quite a bit. But yeah, I mean, that's about it. They just have to show interest, but they have to be there with me when I'm training. You're constantly on call. I'm on call 24 hours a day, so I don't get a whole lot of sleep.
When the
Yeah.
dog's not on duty, where is it?
I actually have him at home. He's in an outside kennel. I've got inside dogs that him and my German Shepherd don't get along. They're both alphas, so I don't want them to fight because I'll get tore apart when trying to get them apart. But yeah, we keep them at our houses. They're part of our family. They're part of our life. But yeah, it takes a lot of work into these dogs to keep them going and maintain.
What type of training do they go through prior to you getting them?
So the training prior to going through, like my dog, they were training him for a sports dog, which it's kind of different than what I do. They have the dog go between the legs. He wasn't working out on that. He had too much anxiety, his high drive. But for us taking them, they start them at a very young age on bite work, just biting a pillow, and they'll go up and bite handlers' legs and, constantly biting. Other dogs that they don't want to have as a bite dog, or patrol dog is what we call them, they're constantly working on scent detection, odor detection, whether it's on human scent, explosives, and that's down to even just a little .22 caliber bullet. Narcotics, different things like that. These dogs they're constantly training from the time, I think it's 3 months, all the way up until we take him. I got mine when he was 2. He didn't have a high drive for bite until he was 2. And then something quick snapped in his brain and he's a biting machine now. So, I've got 1 live bite with him. The guy ended up having to go up and have plastic surgery on his leg because the bite was so deep and tore a big chunk out of his leg. That's not what we want. We want the dogs to grab on and hold. We don't want them shaking, thrashing, and this dog finally grabbed him and held him pretty tight, so, trying to think. But yeah, they're constantly training with these dogs.
Have you talked about how much they cost and by the time the training, like the initial trainings, how much money has gone into them?
So, my canine that I got, the dog itself cost $6,500. They can go all the way up to $15,000 depending on how much work has been put into them. I got my dog pretty green. He didn't have any scent detection. I think he was all bite work and tracking and trailing. But so far I've had him for a little over 3.5 years, I believe. And the sheriff's office has probably put in over $20,000, $25,000, somewhere right around there in training for me and the canine. Yeah, it's a pricey job, but I don't get paid well for it, but I love doing it.
So if I was on the run from the police, and that dog was chasing me, and I shot and killed it, and then apprehended, what type of charges can be brought against an individual who attacks or kills a police dog?
First of all, tell them what you're probably due to them first.
Probably wouldn't be around to know what it is, but it's a second-degree felony. You'll look at 15 to life in prison. But for harming or even hurting our animals, not just killing them, but if you hurt our animal, it's a second-degree felony automatically. So they're trying to bump it up to a first-degree felony or capital murder, just like if you were to shoot a police officer, because that's what they are.
And that's kind of where I wanted to go. I mean, it is a law enforcement officer, just like if their human counterpart.
Yep.
Is basically in the eyes of the law.
Yep.
Those animals are.
You know, and everybody looks at it. Me personally, I have a tight bond with that dog. He is my partner, he's my family. If he got hurt, I mean, it devastated me, just like when he overheated a couple months ago. You know, it took a toll on me. I was overheated, but I'd rather care for that dog than care for myself before. You know, he's top priority to me. The sheriff's office looks at it as that is a tool for us, just like our duty belt, our taser, he's just a tool. But to me, he's part of my life, you know, he's part of my family's life, he loves my kids. Him and my daughter play all the time, they get on the trampoline and play around, but, you know, he's part of my life, so. But, yeah, I mean, it won't be good if my dog got hurt, it wouldn't be good for the person that hurt him. Cause it's not just me, these guys love that dog, so they probably do the same thing. He's part of the law enforcement family, so. Come on in. But I will go out and get him right now and bring him in, and, I ask that you don't reach out and pet him. If you wanna come up and pet him afterwards, that's great, but like I say, right now, I'll have him come through, find this little cotton ball, is all it is, with the scent of narcotics on it, so, okay?
Okay. Cam, do you wanna go hold that outside door for him? They want you to get rid of the drugs real fast.
Can I just use the before the bathroom in my backpack? No good reason.
The funny part is the person who doesn't think this is funny. Would be curious to know.
No, you put the door wedge in.
So be thinking of some questions. That's your assignment today, think of a question. Ask it.
You put the cotton ball by me, cause you're like, you're volunteering.
If the cotton ball's over here.
We'll know when we see that leg of yours just going around.
You should give us some more.
It's kinda like when you like go to places and like, okay, someone has a gift card to be
I
taken
mean,
care of.
I mean, like, look.
I think there's two people in here besides me that might know where it is, please don't give any indication if you do know where it is. There's two.
Is it fine?
Nope, don't even,
That's
See,
okay.
like, he said don't get in front of it, so if it's like under my chair, he comes back.
I would just hold still.
It's like, don't bring it.
I feel like if you were putting it, you put our guys just as a joke.
I would put him, he was a hero. Other people would be very safe, they definitely.
Do I need to join the?
I could definitely see something like the dog was walking us already, I said jump off and scream and go with
I got a
her.
little confused, and it says.
I get pretty scared after you bit me around my leg.
When it says the
His name is German Shepherd,
I thought it was
Alpha dog.
Except when you
So
elsewhere.
it may be another German Shepherd.
Teacher. What dog?
Did you just
His
say
dog.
teacher?
Yes.
I hate you.
Oh, you think it's annoying here, wait till we're at home and he does it. Teacher, we test the ketchup.
I hate ketchup.
Do you really?
Yeah, I don't like it.
Does that explain
You
the
like
whole
riding
piece of
around.
food?
Weird.
It just got really quiet in here.
Yeah.
Cause I was a little nervous. Like, when I ripped my face off. Don't worry, I'm filming it.
I'm filming
it.
As soon as you said that, everybody was like screaming.
Plastic surgery.
Yes. Like dog attacks, kid.
Wait, so it was saying how the dog got Officer Bennett twice, and he had to go get plastic surgery on his leg. Did the, like,
I don't know if he says that Deputy Bennett got plastic surgery, I think someone else.
okay, well, did the Department of Officers paid for it?
So if it was a deputy that got hurt, then I'm sure that's part of their insurance. That happened. If it happens to a criminal, you're on your own.
Yeah.
Okay guys.
It's like a bull in a china hutch. So right now, he's just looking for a scent cone for the narcotic. And when he alerts, this is what he'll do. Show me. What is it? Show me. Where? that's what it looks like when he alerts, that's what I want. I don't want him, so there's different ways for the dogs to alert. There's aggressive alert, which they will actually grab a bumper of a car and rip it off if they can. They'll scratch the heck out of a car with him. I want him to be a passive alert. That's where he goes to a down position or a sitting position. The other day when I got the 71 pounds of meth, it put him over the top. I mean, he's that much. We usually train with small amounts, like a user amount of the narcotic. Like I say, all this is a cotton ball with the scent on it. So that's all it takes is that little bit. When he got the 71 pounds of meth, it put him in a higher drive, and he actually started barking at the car, and that's the first time I've seen it. He did his indication, he sat there just staring at the car, started barking. Once the guy heard the bark, you should have seen the guy's face, like, oh no, I'm SOL. I'm going to prison, and that guy is now with federal custody. They came and picked him up the same day. It's the biggest load that Utah has had this year so far with narcotics. We got the 71 pounds of methamphetamine, and then I got over $12,000 in cash off the guy. When we seize cash, the sheriff's office will actually get 85% kickback to go toward drug interdiction, some type of drug interdiction for the sheriff's office.
Will you tell them what that means? I'm not sure they're all familiar with that term.
On the interdiction. So interdiction is, I actually had to go through a 40-hour training of it a couple weeks ago. Is what we're doing is we're constantly looking for narcotics traffickers. This guy had been running narcotics for, we don't know how long yet because he won't talk. The feds are hoping he'll start talking after he goes through a couple months of court trials. But, so the interdiction, we've got certain questions that we ask them. The way that people are acting, you can tell when somebody drives past you on the freeway, they'll sit back in their car and avoid contact with you, they'll slow way down. They'll get right up behind a semi, instead of doing 83 miles an hour, they'll be down to 60 miles an hour. So we're constantly watching for that. So interdiction, we're looking for the way people are acting. When we ask certain questions, one thing I'll ask them is, where are you coming from? This guy was coming from Merced, California. Hey, don't turn that on. Oh. He was coming from Merced, California. I asked him how long he'd been traveling. He said for 15 and a half hours. It takes 11 hours, 10 to 11 hours to get from there to Fillmore, Utah. You can tear that handle off. So I'll look that up while he's talking to me, just see how long it takes to travel that far. He had been dealing narcotics his whole way from Merced, California. He'd been stopping, dropping off anywhere from 1 pound to 4 pounds of meth on each stop. I asked him where he was going. He had to sit there and think about where he was going. If I'm traveling, I know right where I'm going. So, you know, I'm going to Wyoming. Okay, where you at? Where at in Wyoming? You know, and I can tell him right where I'm going. This guy had to sit there and think and tells me I'm going to Minnesota. But it's like, so why can't you just say I'm going to Minnesota? Hey, cough. One second, cough. Thank you. Then as I'm asking him, you know, that was kind of my first red flag. Where he was parked at, instead of going into the gas station to use the bathroom, he decided to go out and get outside in public. So I also got him for public urination. That's kind of the joke right now. But so as I'm talking to him, I ask him, okay, let me ask you this: do you have any weapons, explosives, knives, anything like that inside the vehicle? First thing, no. You know, really fast answer. I asked him, do you have any marijuana inside the car? No. Do you have any heroin? No. Do you have any cocaine? No. When I got to methamphetamine, he had to sit there and think, and he would not make eye contact with me after that. He sat there, and then it's no, and then he'd look up at me. I asked him if he had a large amount of cash inside the vehicle. Same thing. Looks away from me, avoids eye contact, had to think about it, and then tells me no. So at that point, I told him, I said, well, I've got a canine. I'm going to do a free air sniff, is what we call it. It's not searching a vehicle. So when I deploy him, I'll give him the command to search, which is Zook in German. He'll just start going around the car. You know, whether he goes out 15 feet from the car, I don't care, he's still gonna smell the odor of narcotics. As it gets closer, he'll go around it. Usually it takes sometimes 2 times for him, sometimes it only takes 1 time for him to go around. For this one, he went around it, came back, went to the driver's side door, and that's when he sat and started barking. I'm just watching that guy, you know, and you could just see his whole demeanor change, almost the whole color go out of him. He knew he was in trouble at that point. So his driver's side door was open. Bonsai went to jump in, and I always want to look inside a vehicle before he jumps in because of syringes and glass. People will put glass on the floors to mess with the dogs. Come here. See? Oh. Oh yeah. So, anyways, so I had to pull on him. The door closed, and I hear the guy lock his doors to his vehicle. And it's like, I don't care if you lock the car, because if I have to, we'll break a window to get into it. Because now I have probable cause to search his car, where the dog indicated on it. When I opened up the back of the car, after I finally got the keys from him, I had to physically take the keys from him. He wouldn't give them up. Hey, off. So when I opened up the back, that's when I opened up it's just a gray tote, you know, that you pack stuff in to store. That's where the methamphetamine was at. So, they say his drive is crazy. He'll sit there and chew on that toy for hours. He'll rip the handles off. That's why I got that older one. I don't want to tear my new ones apart. Hey, come here. One thing, get it. Oh. So in training, first thing I want to do with this dog is train obedience. So I want him to follow me. When I have him follow me, when he's on leash, I want him right against my side. I want to be able to feel where he's at. Makes him feel more at ease, calms him down a little bit, knowing where I'm at also. He wants to know where I'm at all the time. So obedience is a big thing, and then we go into our detection. Detection word, we start them on, we call them dope boxes. They're just little wooden boxes. We've got one that has scent in it, the other 3 do not, and he has to find the scent, and that's when he starts getting his reward. And he loves it. He'll do that for hours if he can. But I get tired, so we don't do it for hours. Normally when we do a training session, it's for about 15 minutes, and then we'll put the dog up, let him rest, bring him back out, go another 15 minutes. When I went through training, normally there's anywhere from 5 to 15 dogs. I was the only one there, so I did training 14 hours a day for 6 weeks straight with this dog. He was wore out, I was wore out. But I mean, it takes a lot of work with these dogs. I go through a first aid class with them. We've just got a basic first aid kit. It's got the vet wrap in it, got some 4x4 gauze. I actually have a vest for him now. After he overheated, we ordered vests for all of our canines that have a cooling pack in them. So if we know we're gonna go on a long track like this guy, the guy that ran for 3.5 miles, we didn't think it was gonna be a long track. The guy actually stole a different deputy's vehicle up in Scipio, took off, we got in a chase with him. Guy ended up crashing the car down by Meadow and took off through the Tamarax. And it was some nasty stuff to track through. But after that, we ended up getting these cooling vests that actually have ice packs that go over their vitals, their heart, their liver, their kidneys, just to keep them cooled down. We don't want the dogs overheating. These dogs run right around 104 degrees, 107 and above will kill the dog. And he was pushing that pretty hard that day. Yeah, so I'm not sure what else yet.
So what type of, what do you use for your positive reinforcement?
So positive reinforcement, I'll
What are
use
your different things?
these tubs. He'll fight me for that tub for forever if he can. I've got that, and then also a ball. I actually lost his ball, so he's mad at me. Because when we search a vehicle, like you saw with right here, he'll find it, and then he'll look at me because he wants that ball. He knows he's gonna get rewarded. He just found something, and if there's nothing there, I can tell because he'll just look at me right off. He won't stay nose in it or go back to it. He'll look at me, and I can pull him off of the scent really easy just by walking by him, so I'll know there's nothing there, because he'll try to trick you. The dogs are smart, and he will outthink me as much as he can, and it's quite often. But yeah, so positive reinforcement, like I say, we'll grab this tug or a tug and just, he'll sit there and fight me for it. Try to flip him around. This is the biggest dog we have. He's sitting right around 96 pounds right now. So for a little guy like me, he'll drag me around. You know, and it's fun until you're going downhill, then it's not so fun. We did that up in Beaver. We had a guy steal a truck, ended up by the Sulphurdale thermal plant, and it was in the mud, so it was great going uphill because he pulled me uphill. But going down, it was not fun. The suspect was taken by other deputies, and he just wanted to go back and chase that guy again. So he was dragging me down. I just pretty much skied down it in the mud. So, but I try not to discipline him a whole lot. You can see he's got a pinch collar on, so all I've got to do is just one little tug on it, and it pinches right here on his Adam's apple on his throat. It doesn't hurt him. When I did the 6 weeks of training, all of the hair was gone right there, because we're doing corrections all the time. But I will not beat the dog. Some of the dogs will actually challenge their handlers, and we have a technique, we just call it rolling the dog, where you actually roll the dog, you'll pinch their stomach and twist it. And sometimes it can take a half hour for the dog to look away from you, and that's what you're wanting to see, is the dog is seeing that you're the dominant one, not the dog. Sometimes it'll take up to 2 hours, just sitting there holding the dog down and just twisting all you're doing is grabbing the skin of his stomach and twisting it. With him, they're surprised how loyal he is to me right when I got him. We've had a pretty tight bond.
What breed of dog is it?
This is a Belgian Malinois. This is what we try to run with the sheriff's office. Some offices would rather have a German Shepherd. They're not as high drive. They can be, some of them can, some of them aren't. But hey, follow. Follow. Over. Hey. Over. Good. Stay. See. Good. But these dogs have a really high drive. They're, like I say, his anxiety goes through the roof. I can tell when, like, I'll take him to parks where there's a lot of people. They do a luau at the park in Fillmore. The kids always want to come up and play with them. So I'll be like, okay, let me get him settled down for a minute. Down. I was like, oh. So I'll get him down like this, let the kids come up. If there's too many, I'll sit there and watch the dog. His ears will actually start laying back. At that point, I want to tell the kids, okay, time to back off for a minute, let me walk him around, and then I'll bring him back in and let him be around them. Our West Desert dog, I will not have around kids. He likes to nip people. When I was doing the testing for him, I had him for 3 weeks. Dog was great with me and my kids. Within a week of him not being around me, he came up full mouth bite for my face. So, you know, you just never know with these dogs. Like I say, this one, I can let him off leash, and I don't have a problem with him. Until I give him the one command, and then I won't let anybody around him. When I do that, when I go search for suspects, I won't even let my family around him for a full day. That's how long it takes him to calm down. A lot of the dogs can go straight from patrol work, chasing a suspect, fighting a suspect, into scent detection. Him, he can. It takes me 20 minutes to a half hour to get him to calm down from chasing somebody, to get him back into the boring job is what I call it, you know, looking for narcotics. If he can chase a guy every day, he's happy. If he can chase and bite somebody, but it's not, so. He gets to do a lot of boring work and looking for narcotics. But,
Okay, you guys thought of your questions?
yeah.
So I read a book a couple years ago, like back in World War II, where they would hide the Jews on the boat, and they would use dogs to sniff them out. But the people that were hiding the Jews, they'd have like a handkerchief or something, and they put cocaine on it, so if the dog smelled that, you couldn't smoke the Jews. Does that work?
No, it doesn't. So, just like with narcotics, they'll actually try hiding them in a gas tank, you know, in your fuel tank of your truck while they're driving, thinking that will mask the smell. If they're trained for a certain scent, that's all they're looking for. Dogs can actually get to the point where they can sniff out what type of flour. So if they're in a pizza dough, if they're trained on that type of a scent, that's all they're looking for. They don't care about any of the other scents. One load that we got was covered in transmission oil and mustard, trying to throw the dog off. You know, a lot of people will put dog food inside the vehicle. That's one thing we train with is food. We'll put random food out, and make sure the dog's not indicating on that type of stuff. We only want them indicating on the one scent, and that's it. So with him, he does heroin, methamphetamine, cocaine, and that's the only sense we have. Where the laws are changing with marijuana, I never put it on this dog, because when they change the laws, we'll have to retire the dog and get rid of him completely. So why go through that hassle when we don't have to? Oh, good dog, good boy. He's a good boy. So, but yeah, I mean, people can try to mask the scent, try to mask the odor. I've had it where there's other dogs inside of vehicles. He don't care about them. He don't care about a cat. He don't care. He's out looking for narcotics and bad guys. That's it. So it's funny because people will be like, oh, he indicated on my dog. No, he didn't, because I train that all the time with him. We'll have other dogs come in, get their scent everywhere, whether they're jumping on chairs, letting them use the bathroom around the training areas. So just so that we know they're not indicating on other animals or other scents. So
You have to testify in court. What type of testimony does both the prosecutor try to get from you to say, you know, this was a valid alert, versus what does the defense attorney try to do to, you know, bring doubts or question into whether or not the dog alerted or was trained properly?
right. So when we do our training, we have to keep very detailed records on what we're doing. Anytime we're training. This will be the first time I've ever went to federal court, and it's gonna be a lot different. The prosecutor here, Pat Finlayson, I haven't had a problem with. He's been great. They'll just kind of talk about, okay, so from the time you stopped the vehicle, what happened after that? I talked to them. They were acting nervous or suspicious is what I call it. Deployed the canine, did a free air sniff, not a search. I'll always call it a free air sniff. As the dog went around the vehicle, the dog indicated on the presence of illegal narcotics, because that's what he's trained to do. If they want to, they can subpoena my training records at any time. And when we're doing training records, we have to have the amounts of drugs, like the weights of what we're training on. We'll do large amounts. With him, we do large amounts, we do small user amounts to medium. With the dogs, if it's a large amount, if they're on, say the dog has marijuana for a scent. The dog's used to just finding little small amounts of user amounts, the dog will indicate. But if there's a large amount, like 100 pounds or more, which they're getting now, it will overwhelm the dog and it won't find it. So that's why I always train him on different types of, or different amounts and different drugs. But as far as going to court and testifying, I haven't lost a case yet. Like I say, this federal case that I'm gonna go do is gonna be a lot more detailed. They're gonna want all of my training records, how often I train, who I trained with when I first certified. We have to recertify once a year with these dogs. There was 1 year he did not recertify for patrol, so I had to redo it because he just wanted to go by the bad guy. He wouldn't recall. So we have to be able to say I send him on a bad guy gives up, we have to recall him, and show that we could do that. If I have to in court, I can do demonstrations inside the courtroom with the dog on what happens. Like I say, I haven't had to yet, but it does happen. With the bite work and recalls, we want to be careful with that. I don't know if any of you saw, what was it, last year with Salt Lake County? So they had a suspect, guy was in there, he was inside the house. The female called in, there was a protective order. By the time the cops showed up, the guy was outside, gave up, got down on his hands and knees, hands in the air, and the canine handler sent the dog for a bite, which is not good. So that gave the whole state of Utah, black eye, Salt Lake County, anywhere in the county cannot use dogs for patrol for bite work anymore, as of right now. It was a bad bite. The guy actually sent the dog 5 different times to bite this guy, which was uncalled for. It wasn't the dog's fault. The dog got recertified and is now with a different handler. That guy is facing 2nd-degree felony and prison time as a cop because of it. So we always want to make sure the dogs go recall. The guy in Meadow, that guy I think had been around canines. When I sent my dog off leash to get him, I was over 150 yards. Dog went out, guy dropped to his knees, put his hands up, I recalled the dog. Once I went around him and came back to me. That's what I want. I want him to know when he needs to shut down. But with him, if he sees a bite sleeve or the bite suit, he just wants to go tear it apart, just like with this tug. If I'd let him, he'd have that thing shredded. But, so, yes?
Can the dog get high or sick when smelling enough narcotics?
Yes, and that's something that I constantly watch, because if he can get to the narcotic, he will eat it. So I actually carry Narcan with me for heroin overdose. That we constantly watch the dogs, you know. I mean, when I'm searching a car, I never go a longer leash than this. Some guys will go with the retractable leashes that are 50 yards or 50 feet of leash and let the dog just run. I won't, because I know what he'll do. I've watched it. I didn't put him up one day when I was picking up my drugs, and I went to grab it out of a trailer door, and he actually grabbed the bag of meth and tore it open. So I had to hurry and get him out of the building and get it all cleaned up, because like I say, if he gets to, he'll eat it. So we're constantly watching that.
What are some of the signs that they are getting sick or high from the narcotics?
So, with him, I haven't had the problem yet, but with heroin, he'll just go really lethargic, which means he'll become tired. So with people on heroin, we call it on the nod, and they're constantly like, they're falling asleep. You can be sitting there having a conversation with them, and that's what the canines will do. But yeah, so like I say, I constantly watch him when I'm searching a house, searching a vehicle. We do not let the dogs search a person. If they have a backpack on, we'll separate them from the backpack, have the dog search the backpack, and that's it. I can search a person, that's easy. Just empty out your pockets, so, you know. But yeah, I mean, we constantly watch them. Like I say, I actually have Narcan that is dedicated for the dog. I will not use it on a human. It's for him, that's it. You know, him or another officer. I have Narcan for people that are overdosing, but I save mine mainly for my dog. So, yes?
So why do you use German and Dutch instead of English to train?
So, the reason we do that is it's harder for people to speak German or know our commands in German or Dutch, or, you know, some people, I know a guy that uses Japanese. There's no way I will ever learn Japanese, or do I care to learn it, you know? But, I mean, it's just harder for people to do, because if they know the commands, they can call the dog off, and that's not what we want, so.
So like in Germany and stuff, if they have canines, would they use English?
Yeah, yep, they'll use English, they'll use Russian, they'll use any type of language that isn't a key language in the area. So, some people will use just plain English with their dogs, but me personally, I don't, just because of that. If I send the dog on somebody, I want that dog to do his job, you know, not have them calling the dog off, so, yes.
How many years can you run the dog before it's retired, and what happens after the dog's retired?
These dogs, they can actually work until the day they die. As long as they're still showing that they can pass the certifications, that's fine. Our last canine handler, he had it set in his mind that it was 7 years. And when he retired, the dog retired with him. And with us, we can buy the dog back from the sheriff's office, from the county. So the county actually owns the dogs, because they're the ones that are paying for it. But we can buy them back for $1, and then that dog is ours. So, and that's what I will do with him. When I retire, he'll go with me. I don't know if another handler could handle this dog. We have a guy that ran dogs for, I think it was 17 or 18 years. Cleet. and he says he will never run this dog, he couldn't. So, just
He's
cause
smart.
the bond we have, makes it hard, it's hard for me to think of somebody else running this dog even, you know, cause like I say, he's part of my family. He's constantly with me, when I'm on duty, he's in my truck. Anytime I take my sheriff's office truck, the dog's in the truck with me. But it makes it nice, cause then that way we can keep the dog, and, you know, we can dumb them down to where they're just a family pet. You know, it takes a little bit to get that drive out of them, but it's worth it, I think, and that way we can have our partner for life. So, anybody else? No? Oh,
Do you ever have any problems with, like, if the suspect has like a female dog in heat or things like that where it goes off?
so, they try not to ever breed a working canine. This dog was bred twice, so he'll look for that, but I've never had a problem with it. If he's in work mode, once he has his pinch collar on, he knows he's going to work. If he has his flat collar on, he knows he's looking for narcotics. If he has what we call a tracking harness on, we have a tracking harness that goes over his shoulders, then that way we're not constantly pulling on the dog's neck. When he knows that's on, he's looking for a bad guy. It's crazy, cause you always think dogs are dumb, and, you know, they don't know anything. Dogs are smart, they're a lot smarter than people think. Like I say, his different harnesses, he knows what mode he's going into. So, when he gets that tracking harness on, I'll take the leash and hook it on the back of him, and I've got a 50-foot leash, then that way I have a little bit of catch-up room. But he will pull until he finds the guy. So he'll go and go and go, so. Does that answer your question? Somewhat. Anybody else?
Was he bred before or after he became a police dog?
He was bred before, which was good, because in that way we could train him and hopefully get it out of him. But, like I say, he hasn't had a, So, but yeah, he was bred before, you know, and I wish they never would've, but I didn't have to say, I didn't own the dog before that. Hathaway's dog, we got, I think, I wanna say the dog was 15 months old when we first got it. Got the videos from a guy, but the guy that we bought it from is from Serbia. So he was really good at bite work, good at detection, good at his ball work. When we got him, there's a valve inside his heart that helps, I guess, dissolve the moisture or the liquid inside of his body. Well, that valve wasn't working, so that dog's abdominal filled up with fluid. So we had to, we didn't put the dog down, he's on medication now, they've got it under control, but we've had to have the dog trained twice. And every time you do that, it's $2,000. So, it's not something that we wanna deal with. Once that starts happening, they have health issues, the dog's done. They will not work patrol again. So that kinda devastated him, yes.
Have you ever had a problem when you're like chasing someone and like your leash being stuck on like a rock or a tree?
Oh yeah, all the time, all the time. We get wrapped around sagebrush, he'll go one way, I'll go the other, you know, and then we have to try to meet up in the middle or run back around the sagebrush. But yeah, that happens a lot. There was one time I chased a guy, the guy gave up, got him apprehended, I had Bonsai in an off position, and it was at night, off. So they're walking the guy back to the patrol trucks, and it was over, I think it was a half a mile, and I'm sitting here talking, look down, and his collar had actually came undone. So he's actually chasing the suspect again, and I'm thinking, oh crap, one of the officers are gonna get bit, or the suspect, I didn't want that, so I recalled him and he actually came back, so that made me happy, but yeah, stuff like that happens all the time. We'll get caught up on rocks, trees, all sorts of stuff, so. Hey, bottle. Good. wants to do, just constantly play. Make me happy, that's all he wants.
You'd be good friends with my dog.
Hmm?
You'd be good friends with my dog. I wouldn't want you to sit there and pet him.
Right. And that's like I say, I mean, I've got a German Shepherd that is my house dog. He lives outside, I won't let those two together, but my daughter's, Chocolate Lab, he loves. He loves, I've got a little Chihuahua Wiener dog mix, and he loves that dog. They'll play forever. But the two big dogs, where they're both alphas, I won't let them around each other. But he loves to play. Like I say, he'll even play with cats. Some of these canines will actually kill a cat, but he hasn't yet, so.
Any other questions? Think they're about ready to start doing some book work or something.
Yeah, no kidding.
Before that, I just wanted to let you guys all know that we're really, really lucky to have Bonsai and Deputy Warren as a team. They do an awesome job. They're, you know, you guys don't know everything that goes on, but they've done a lot of good things for Miller County, and they do all, you know, every time they're on shift, they're actively working, and they're doing a really good job. So just know that they do, I mean, Bonsai's a great addition to the sheriff's office, and Deputy Warren handles them very well, and they work really, really well together.
Thank you. Well, thank you, guys. Yes.
You mentioned at one point you were down in Beaver or something, what was the jurisdiction of the dogs?
No, so with this dog, we've been up in Juab County, we went to, Sevier County, went over to Richfield, said, apprehend a suspect, let's go a vehicle. But anytime somebody calls, our sheriff's office doesn't have a problem with you going anywhere in the state to.
So he's not county dog.
No, no. I mean, he's dedicated to this county, but if other ones around the surrounding counties, we'll use him. I've been up to Juab County 3 times this year. I think on different vehicle chases and suspect jumps out and runs.
Do those other counties not have canine units, or are you just trying to get additional units in there?
No, they have canine units, but like the Juab County guy, I work with all the time. He always comes down and trains. I go up there and train. There's a guy in Gunnison that I train with. But if they're out of town, I will actually go up and help them out. And that's what it was the last 3 times. Anytime there's been a vehicle chase, he's been in training, at a different training. Anytime I've got a big narcotics bust, or let's see, he came down here once for something, and I was at training, so they'll actually come down here, do stuff here too. But, yeah, so the last 3 vehicle chases they've had where we've used him, he's actually been in training, so he was not available. But we'll always keep in contact, you know, hey, I'm going out of town, if they need you, come down and help out, you know, or I go up there and help out. Richfield, they mainly use highway patrol dogs. I think they've got 1 highway patrol dog over there. He lives in Salina, they had a car chase, guy got out, didn't know if the guy had a gun or what, but he would never show his hands. I was the first one to show up, which shocked them, but I'm willing to go and help out. Guy ended up he'd taken a pop bottle, thrown his hoodie over the top of it, and came up like he was gonna shoot one of the deputies. I just sent the dog, they ended up grabbing the guy before the dog got to him, so I had to call the dog back, which, I can see an attitude change in the dog. He was mad because he didn't get a good bite, so I had to sit there and play with him forever on the side of the road. The 11 pounds of meth I got last year, he actually got his tail hit by a semi. Semi truck wouldn't move over. The other deputies started yelling at me, because I was on the driver's side of the vehicle. I didn't see the semi coming, and I actually had to hug right up against the semi, and I heard his tail get hit, because his tail stuck out further. So, there was plenty of room for the guy to move over. I wish somebody would have chased him down and cited him for it, or thrown him in jail. It was assault on an officer. The guy should have moved over, he didn't, there's plenty of room. I'm constantly watching him, because if I give him one little bit of leash, he'll go out and wanna play. And that's the last thing I want, especially canines actually do that, and they've gotten out in the road and the car hit them. So, constantly watching them. Yes.
Has he ever,